What is up, guys? 70 Savage here, coming at you today with a new video. This one's pretty exciting because I've spent the last couple months thinking very deeply about the layout that we want to do in our brand new van conversion, which is, as you guys have probably seen, a Ford E350, specifically the short body version. These short vans are significantly smaller than the vans that we've been converting on our channel and the vans that a lot of us are familiar with, such as a Sprinter van or a modern Ford Transit. And after all this thinking, I really think that this is an innovative van layout for a van of this size. And right now is the perfect time to share any feedback with me on why you think this layout might not be good. So please leave that in a comment below before I actually start building it if you have any ideas. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Primary theme here is that this van is intended for trips that are 1 week or less. We did design it so you can add some of the additional luxury items depending on the time of year or the amount of water that you need. So you could go for longer trips, but yeah, 1 week or less is the primary intent here. Second theme is that I want to be able to use this van in all 4 seasons. So yes, even in deep snow, if I want to go camping and ice fishing or skiing, I can use this van in the middle of winter. Theme number 3, I wanted this to be a really simple conversion. The Sprinter took us about 2 years to make, and it's overall a pretty complex build. There's tons of wires and pipes running everywhere. I want this one to be as simple as possible. Final theme is that this needs to be a daily drivable camper van. We did have to sell off one of our cars, and then I gave my daily driver to Maddie. So this van is gonna be my new daily driver, and I don't want it to be miserable every time I have to go somewhere. In my mind, that mostly means that I need a view out of all of the windows so that I don't have any ridiculous blind spots. So this is the rendering of the many different iterations that we put into this van build design. It is in a website called Onshape. I actually just made a video teaching you guys how to make your van design in Onshape. And the biggest benefit of this particular tool for you guys is that the document that I'm showing you here is actually free for public use. I will put a link to this CAD file design in the video description below. And the reason I think that this layout is somewhat innovative is because there's really only 2 main layouts that you see when you're looking at these smaller vans. The first one is kind of the standard bed in the back and then galley and seat in the front. That is very similar to the layout that I have in my big van and the Sprinter van. The main challenge with that is that these things are not super wide. You end up getting about 70 inches of length in your bed, which might work for some people, but for Maddie and I, who are both over 6 feet tall, that would not be a very comfortable sleeping situation. We even dabbled with the idea of having flares, and it just wasn't gonna make a bed that was legitimately comfortable for both of us to sleep in. The second most popular layout is the official Sportsmobile layouts that came in the original Sportsmobile vans. They basically took this bed, rotated it 90 degrees. They had a bench. You could convert that bench into a bed, but then you would have a similar thing where you have a long bed in the bottom here. So overall, this is a roughly accurate dimensional portrayal of the van that we've bought. The overall idea here is that we have a kitchen galley unit with a water system on the passenger side, and then we have a slide out full length bed on the driver's side. I've already gotten a lot of comments, so I want to cover this right off the bat. Are we going to do a pop top in this van since it is a short roof version? And we actually do have a strategy for this. We've thought about it a lot. We are not going to start with a pop top in this van. I do want to save on the top heaviness of it so that we can be a little bit better overlanding. I also want to save the roughly $20,000 that it costs to add a pop top to one of these vans. But the plan is we're basically going to camp in it and try it out for a year with the short roof, and we're just going to see how that is. There's a couple of ideas we're incorporating into this van. One of them is a massive skylight in the back that you can stand up in, and the other one is an extra thick floor with a large layer of foam padding on top so that when you're crawling around on your knees, it feels a lot more comfortable. But these may make the short roof version of this camper more livable. They also may not. I think we're just gonna have to try it out and see when this thing's actually done. I'm gonna have a whole video series on the bed system itself since it is a little bit complicated and I haven't actually seen a bed like this in a van of this size before. But the overall strategy with this bed is that it starts at a 30-inch wide by 80-inch long single person bed if I am taking trips in this thing by myself. But then you can take the 20 inches on this side right here and slide it out into the hallway so that you now have a 50-inch bed, I think. This is not only a slide out bed that has a short mode and a long mode, but you will actually be able to flip this backrest up so that during daytime, we will have an extra long bench to sit on and work from. I'm actually really excited for the slide out, flip up bed that we're gonna build. I commonly give people the advice that you don't want a dynamic van layout. You want a van layout that's going to be as static as possible with as few moving components, especially not things like slide out beds. Since this van is so short and since we needed a long enough bed for tall people, it's just not possible to do unless you have a lengthwise bed. But second of all, this may not seem like it's a static layout, but we've actually designed it so that even when the bed is in extended bed mode and it covers the whole hallway here, the entirety of the van build is usable. So you don't have to convert the bed back and forth from a bed to a short bed to a bench to use things like the fridge and the microwave and the sink. Everything is usable in all three modes of this camper. Because we already know what's gonna end up happening is during most of the trip, we're gonna be too lazy to convert this thing a single time and it's just gonna stay in one mode. Probably, to be honest, when we're both camping, that's going to be the wide bed mode. And we wanna be able to use all the stuff without needing to change the whole van around every time. So let's talk about some of the more detailed components here, moving over to the galley side. At the front of the galley, we have a medium size 64 quart fridge. I think I'm gonna go with a drawer version so that we can more easily access the stuff in the back of the fridge. And like I mentioned, it is facing forward, so even when this bed is extended, we will be able to access all the contents here. In the middle of the galley unit, we have our super simple sink and water system. This is probably going to be an undermount sink underneath the countertop, which I made slightly transparent here. We have a 5-gallon freshwater jug. I found one on Amazon that fits these particular dimensions. And then we have a 2.5-gallon gray water jug. So the water is gonna go directly from this tank into a little pump up to the sink, and it's gonna drain directly into this jug right here. Both of these jugs will be removable, so when we're on a trip, we can just take them out of the van and either go fill them up with a hose or just go to the gas station, buy 5-gallon jugs of water and pour them into the freshwater tank. And the entire water system is going to be contained right here, which will make it 4-season campable and also super simple. Eventually, we might get custom water tanks fabricated so that we could probably get at least 7.5 gallons out of the freshwater and maybe 3, 4, or 5 out of the gray water. But for now, I think I'm gonna keep it simple and just get the cheap Amazon ones and see how that goes. Moving into the back section of the galley unit here, which I could probably end up sliding a little bit closer to this side to create a bit more space, we are just going to have a massive storage bin. Since we do not have our bed on the back of the van with the giant garage area underneath, we're going to need a ton of storage in here. So I've intentionally left a lot of these cabinets empty, and they're basically going to flip up and have these large storage bins that we can access from the top, so that once again, they can be accessed and used no matter which mode the camper is in, even if the bed is fully extended. As far as our cooking situation, we do want to cook inside often. In the summer, obviously, we'll just want to be outside, but to be honest, probably 2/3 of the time that we're camping, we end up cooking inside because we're either trying to be stealth or it's cold outside. But the plan right now is to have one of those portable induction cooktops, which is the same thing that we use in the Sprinter van. I'm actually not a huge fan of the one that we use in the Sprinter van because it's just ridiculously loud, like way louder than any electric cooktop that I've heard. If you guys have recommendations for an induction cooktop we should use in this van, please put those in the comments below. The idea is that we can put the induction cooktop on the countertop, either on this side or on this side, and then whichever side doesn't have a cooktop can have a cutting board. It's kind of funny because the countertop in this van is actually going to be quite a bit bigger than the countertop that we have in the Sprinter. Mostly because when I built the Sprinter van, I was single and I didn't cook except for in the microwave. And now that Maddie's around, I'm realizing, okay, it is nice to have a bit of additional counter space. Now Now let's go on to the driver's side. Everything that's going to live underneath the sliding bed and bench system here. First things first, we have our microwave, which I know is in a very awkward position. Having a microwave on the floor is not ideal because it's hard to get stuff in and out of it and you can't see it while it's cooking. But I didn't want to put this on the countertop, which I did consider with some of the other versions. And like I mentioned before, everything needs to be accessible even when this bed is in the extended position. So the microwave, similar to the fridge, is going to open towards the front of the van. One thing I've not mentioned yet about the sliding bed system is that since this hinge will go backwards and allow you to turn it into a bench, that will also give you direct access to everything underneath the mattress. So all of the electrical components and storage cabinets in here will be accessible by just hinging the bed up. In the second portion of the bed cabinet, we have our entire electrical system. My plan right now is to go with the EcoFlow electrical systems. These EcoFlow electrical systems are way simpler than the previous electrical systems that I've put in my vans. And to be honest, these are new since the last van build I did. Gonna do a whole dedicated series on that though when we get to it. But then in the back portion underneath the bed, we are gonna have a massive storage area next to the wheel well here where we can put lots and lots of stuff. And then similar to the storage over here and the storage here, you'll be able to access this from the top. So you'll hinge the bed up and you'll be able to access stuff under here. It will be a little bit more cumbersome to access this storage unit than it will be for this one because there'll be a bed on top sometimes. So we're probably gonna put some more longer term storage stuff in here like off-road recovery gear and things that we don't need to access all the time. In the back of this large compartment, we have what some of y'all are probably familiar with, and that is the extendo vent in our diesel, or in our case, gasoline heater. So we're gonna put a gasoline heater that will keep the whole van nice and toasty in the winter with the invention that we came up with, the extendo vent that attaches to the diesel heater, lets you pull the vent out and redirect the hot air anywhere inside the van. I do sell the extendo vents on my website if you guys are interested. Towards the back of the van here, let me rotate it around real quick. You've probably noticed that neither of these cabinets extend all the way to the rear doors, and there's this strange box here. So this is very intentional and there was a lot of thought put into this. First things first, the most important element of this rear kind of empty space. It's actually not going to be empty on the driver's side here because this box is going to be a toilet. A lot of people don't put a toilet or a bathroom in their van. I cannot imagine living in a van without a bathroom, especially with another person. It just makes it way more similar to a normal home. With this being such a short van and not having a stand-upable camper area, it didn't make sense to put an actual bathroom in here, but we will have a fully functional toilet on the inside of the van that we can either use in the winter or if we're just camping somewhere and we don't want to find a dedicated bathroom to do the business. I partnered with this company called Trellino that makes really compact overlander toilets, and this is their biggest one that fits in here. And it was perfect to put the toilet on this side because when you're actually sitting on the toilet, your knees will be able to kind of go over the bed. So you'll be able to somewhat comfortably do your business. And then also we do plan on having our heads on this side of the bed and our toes this way. So whenever you need to use this thing in the middle of the night, it won't be too obnoxious to whoever else is sleeping in the bed. And then on the passenger side, I also decided to put some space behind the galley unit here. This one I actually plan on leaving open and having it be somewhat dynamic of a space. This is basically our micro garage where we're just gonna put big storage items. If we wanted to bring a paddleboard or my inflatable kayak for fishing in the summer, we could stuff those into this corner here. Or if we're deciding to take a really long trip in the middle of the summer, I can actually fit a miniature EcoFlow air conditioner back into this little pocket here. And yeah, in general, we always just find ourselves taking either random bags or just some sort of cargo, and having a full height area to stuff that stuff when we need it will be really nice. We are not going to be doing any upper cabinets in here. In a van where your head is commonly touching the roof, you really don't want to have upper cabinets. I strongly advise against it. Even though you'll have a little bit of extra storage, you will smack your head on those things, and it's not a pleasant experience. I had upper cabinets in my first van and I decided never again. Also, in this van, a huge benefit of not having upper cabinets or anything that protrudes too high or the full height of the van in the camping area is that we can see out the back windows both when we're driving and when we're camped in here. It is really nice to be able to see out your back windows when you're driving, adds some visibility, and it does just give it that open air feel at the trade-off for not having that additional storage, which we tried to cover by having these massive storage bins and this additional storage area in the back. Another element of this van build that you are probably familiar with if you've been watching the channel is that the entirety of the structure for the cabinet is going to be built out of 80/20 aluminum extrusions. That's what these beams are that you see here. That's gonna add a ton of strength to the cabinetry because we're gonna be taking this thing off-roading. There's gonna be a lot of cargo in here, and I want it to be super extra strong so that we can do whatever we want in this van and not worry about the camper breaking. The last detail of this van build that I want to talk about, I think is going to help us be much more comfortable in a short roof van. What ends up happening when you have a short roof van is you end up kind of crawling around on your knees a lot, and pretty quickly that can become painful. I actually got this idea from Pete, who sold me the original white van that we are now selling since we upgraded to the Sportsmobile. But the idea is basically, instead of putting the insulation below your floor, why don't you take that soft, squishy insulation and put it on top of the hard floor, so that when you're walking around on your knees, you have a nice soft padded area to do that. And on the bottom here, we have 80/20 beams that are actually double height. So that's gonna allow us to put at least an inch of soft foam on top of the hard floor. So we have a nice padded area to walk around on in the back. That covers the entirety of this van build layout. It is a pretty simple layout overall, but I really think this exact layout is the most optimal for a kind of luxury overlanding build. I really want to hear y'all's thoughts about this particular layout because we are about to start building this thing, and having those thoughts before we start doing the work will save us a lot of time and money. I've actually taken the entire next week off of work, and we're going to be making tons of progress on this thing. If you guys are interested in seeing us build this van out and having, in my opinion, the ultimate luxury overland van build, press that subscribe button below. If you liked this particular video, please show me that by pressing the like button below so I can know to make videos like this in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.